All right, we begin this morning with the Daily Monitor in Uganda. The big story on the Daily Monitor: students must be given milk, government orders. Again, that's what the story says this morning. It says the blueprint to cover the estimated 15 million learners is projected to grow domestic milk uptake by 2.3 billion liters a year, but without clarity on who will pick the bills. Private schools proclaimed the arrangement a non-starter on page 4 and 5. Still on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Uganda, China start 44 billion shillings project to boost farming. We still have some other stories here. More men seeking DNA tests for children. That's another story this morning on page 3. And it's quite interesting, the conversation about men seeking DNA testing for their children or surrogates. Dicey. On the one hand, you hear that any man who asks for a DNA test, it in some way reflects a breach of trust from your partner. And imagine then finding out that your partner did have nothing to hide. How do you then repair the marriage and the trust? Like, is it, at what point is it okay to ask for a DNA test?
Well, I don't think, so from what the story says, I don't think that generally, every husband now is seeking the DNA test. I think,
well, if you look at in the news, they're urging more men to take DNA test.
So I think what I think might be happening is that more men are doing it, no doubt, but it's not generally like once you get married or once you have your child, that's the first thing you do. So it also means that there's more, lack of trust, in marriages these days from, husbands. And so they're trying to question a lot more. So I don't think I would blame the men. I think I would really just blame,
Who are we going to? Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I will blame, whatever it is, society, that is putting those ideas in men's head, and women also, that.
It doesn't mean that the men don't have a valid point.
They do, and I was going to say I would blame the women, but how it's hard to say those type of things these days on television. But I would also blame women, who have also created fear, amongst other men, that have heard these stories over and over and over and over and over. Every week you hear about a new one, where someone found out that his kids aren't his. And all of that.
Well, it's a shared responsibility. The men and the women. The women, yes, because some of them are cheating, and they are cheating with men. It is men that are impregnating them. And also for some of them, I mean, there's no excuse. If you don't want to be with someone, don't be with them, rather than being with them. And I think giving someone else another person's child is, it's quite tough. And I don't know how not a lot of people recover from that. Still on the front page, police recover gun used in killing of paralegal in city. And final story, creatives eulogize Lubuama. Alupo may represent Museveni at budget reading. And that's all that we can take this morning on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda.
All right, let's go to Kenya now and see what's on the Daily Nation. It says there, why Ruto climbed down on new taxes. Budget, a wave of public outcry and mounting pressure from the opposition and various organizations have forced President William Ruto and his Kenya Kwanzaa administration to cave in on punitive proposals to the finance bill, including the 3% housing levy, but doubling of value-added tax on petroleum products still remains. That's on pages 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation. Also this morning, police split over Kume promotions. Gachagao versus Mudavadi, battle for supremacy? That's a question on the Daily Nation this morning. And also group sues firm over toxic baby powder. Product banned in other countries, says lobby. That's on page 3. Also on the Daily Nation this morning, how smart detective work led to the rescue of abductees and arrest of kidnappers. Good news there. And these are the big stories that we can find on the Daily Nation. Away from Kenya, let's go to Nigeria and see what's on the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, the big story everyone's talking about. Tinubu signs student loan bill into law on page 5. Students will enjoy easy access to higher education through interest-free loan. Jail term for students who default. Student loan not ultimate in a country with high youth unemployment like Nigeria. And this is according to the ASU president. Accessing the loan must not have political undertone. Jobs after graduation important. Exactly, because this is great. But another angle is how they're supposed to pay, right? But I mean, it's a step in the right direction, I think. President of NAPTAN says, how will they, the loan must not have political undertone. Law will assist indigent students and families, according to Bajabi Amila. Unfortunate news, 21 killed in Plateau community on page 27. Ibadan-based teacher lured to Lagos and murdered. Wow. Federal government alerts Nigerians on outbreak of anthrax in neighboring communities, warns against eating pomo and bushmeat. 10th inauguration, Akpabio Yari in final duel for Senate presidency. All 36 governors supporting Akpabio as next Senate president. and this is of course by Makinde. Abbas Kalu ticket now has backing of our 290 members elect, says group. PDP reps elects adopt Wale Oke as minority leader. Two more stories. More controversies as NDIC appointed by Buhari defends position and alleges corruption. Final story on June 12, it says governors harp on national unity. INEC APC raped democracy and dishonored Abiola's memory, says PDP. Tinubu's Democracy Day threat to judiciary, says Articles 8. So I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that, there's arguments about how whilst the election tribunal is still in office and is still going on, and supporters of a particular party going ahead to support another political party because the tide has turned, that is it not reeking of betrayal or everybody trying to position themselves? There's one person that comes to mind. I don't want to call the person's name, but for example, in the case of Reno Omokri, who's supporting Atiku, but in this case now praises Tinubu's speech. Do you understand?
Yeah, I don't think that's new in Nigeria's political space. It
A lot
does
of
happen.
realigning
There are
is
different
happening.
reasons. But yeah, so there might be realigning, but there's also the part where, the fact that you're in the opposition doesn't mean that you shouldn't commend when something good is done. So there might be that. At the same time, there's a lot of realigning. There's also a lot of, the signs that Nigerians are very easily pleased and easily fooled. By the smallest, slightest things, they get carried away and get very, very, they're pleased very easily. So there's also all those parts, that Nigerians always need to watch out. And I always would ask about what the quality of governance is that Nigerians really desire. What are the things that they use to rate a performing governor, a performing government rather. Is a flyovers enough to say that the government has performed? Transformers enough? It's really not.
Building projects.
They're really not. But those are some of the things that you can splash here and there, and Nigerians would, be very, very excited and say.
They are doing some of these things. A lot of communities where what they are doing for them is just borehole water and
same thing.
And wooden bridges.
Same level of criticism.
All right, that's all that I have this morning on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Let's still stay in Nigeria and see what's happening on the Vanguard.
All right, to the Vanguard newspapers next. The big story there says inauguration, power show as 10th National Assembly gets underway today. Subsidy, Nigerians groaning. NBA tells Tinubu uneasy calm in police over successor of IGP Baba. We can also find here June 12, Abiola was forerunner to entrench democracy tenets in Nigeria, says Kingibe. Anthrax. Stop eating pomo. Bushmeat, federal government tells Nigerians. That's on page 8. And on June 12, INEC APC dishonored Abiola's memory, says the PDP. We can also find here no witch hunting in cancelling employment of 12,000 civil servants, and that's from Governor Aliyah. Petrol marketers struggle to raise capital for new supplies. That's on page 19, which is hard to believe because they've been selling for 500 naira for about 2 weeks now. Should be the second week. 500 naira
510.
Yeah, so I'm not sure why they're struggling to raise capital for new supplies. And like I said, at the end of this month is when subsidy truly ends and payment of subsidy really ends. And so we expect that that's when we will know what the true price of petrol will be. I'm not expecting that it would stay at 500 naira. I'm expecting from analysts that it would be a lot higher.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't happen, then Nigerians should really question whether we really have stopped paying subsidy or not. All right. Tinubu signed student loan bill into law. We should talk a little bit about that this morning. And also, can to Nigerians learn from 1993 elections to build true democracy? Subsidy, NUT, parents fault reduction in school days. And I think these are the only stories that we can find on the Vanguard newspapers this morning. Remember, we have more newspapers coming your way in the second half of Breakfast Central. We'll be taking you across the continent once again. But stay with us this morning. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, let's move into our top stories on a Tuesday morning on Breakfast Central.